Well, what's the crack, everybody? How are you getting on? Tom O'Mahony here, host of Buckshot. What's the crack? You're all very welcome. Thank you all very much to the Patreons. You would have gotten this episode actually nearly last week, and they'll get next week's one tomorrow. There you go, ad-free and all. Early access, videos and all to go with them. There's your benefit of being a Patreon. And you get the Ramble Pods midweek, as well as, live ones, stuff like that. Gigs coming up September the 10th. I'm going to be in Care, County Tipperary with my new show Clattered. I'm going to be in Judge Roy Beans in Newbridge with Keith Walsh opening for me of 2FM fame on the 1st of October, and the weekend I think of the 28th, I could be wrong, I'm going to be in the Galway Comedy Festival. Going to be filming that one, so come along, bring the gang. So you know the story. If you want to become Patreons, do. If you want to just highlight, subscribe. If it's your first time listening, go ahead, subscribe. Hit the 5 stars if you can, or the 5 whatevers. Give it the top marks. Not unless it's no use to me. No use to me whatsoever. Tell everybody about it. That's all I can ask you to do. Fair play to you. Moving on to today's guest. This, I think, pretty much rounds off all of the Hardy books at this stage. This man is a creator of it. One of the lead characters. Absolutely hilarious. We had so many phone calls and chats before this. We practically could have recorded like 3 other podcasts. So you kind of meet us mid-conversation. And we just meandering down a wild and weird path. It was glorious. He, of course, is Martin Moloney, a.k.a. Eddie Durkin. Enjoy it as much as I did, everybody.
I know it well, hey.
Well, I was going to say welcome to the podcast, Martin Moloney, but sure, you've already welcomed yourself with the hi.
Welcome to the party.
Yeah, do you know what? The delight I have in my soul, my barnacles, my cockles, every time. More so that you don't just run with Eddie Durkin all the time, but you just slip in and out of him. And then all of a sudden, you have a fantastic ability. And I get complimented on this, but you're so much superior on it when it comes to clipping in and out of accents. Because for the listener, we have been talking.
The compliments coming in thick and fast. Thanks very much, Tom. Appreciate that.
You know how to do it, guy. You know how to do it. But it is.
Any word from Quirk lately?
Let me just check. Not for either one of us. Kirk is he's running.
Quirk's after you.
He's running Pigeons at the minute. Did I tell you that? No.
Is that a new nightclub on?
No, I wish it was
William
a new
Street.
nightclub. He's actually he's a very successful pigeon fancier. They call him. He's a successful high end, like selling to Chinese guys. He's like selling and breeding top end pigeons, racing pigeons. So
Catch the pigeon.
do you know we all end up in different places, Martin?
Yeah.
We all end up.
We do indeed. We do places that we. Sure, I'm in fucking Stockholm.
Stockholm. Like, I mean, if ever there was a syndrome to be got, you got the. I don't know what Mayo syndrome is, but Stockholm syndrome, you can't fucking leave the place, and if you do, Jesus.
Well, Stockholm's it wasn't a bank robbery back in the 70s, and the bank robber was like, look, lads, I've fallen on hard times. It's desperate. I needed the cash. And I mean, look, at the end of the day, the Stockholm syndrome, how it played out was they basically got to know their captor, and he was probably a sound lad.
I've been saying it for years to lads when they talk about the entertainment business. They're like, well, what's the key to success? And there's 2. Don't be fucking late, and just be sound. After that, talent, you can kind of...
Unless you're one of these ruthless pricks who just shaft everyone, and that's another way of getting to the top.
That'll be yeah.
But there'll always be, like if you can go about that way of there are many out there who step over. I mean, there's a lot of narcissistic tendencies within the personality types that are attracted to the world of show business, and they will often find that if you cross people, then they probably will be like, well, I'm not helping him out of this quagmire. That'll teach you for not paying for my dinner that time at Applegreen. I don't know. That's just small potatoes. But
there definitely is that. All right.
Look at Weinstein.
Now, Let's back
Everyone
up.
loved Weinstein. You know, it was like Tarantino and the boys. He was a great man altogether.
It's
And
an
then it was
awful.
like we had no idea what was going on.
It's an awful business for like hooring as well as talking out your hole, because while there two men can be chatting away here this evening, at any point, people in the entertainment industry, because I suppose it is very much based around you, isn't it? It's not like a team, a sporting industry, where it is based around a team which may have up to 70 people involved. Whereas the entertainment industry, for the most part, especially like comedy or acting, it's based around one person. So all you can inwardly look at most until you get maybe 10 years in, you realize, I read no. I'm okay with everything else around me. But for the most part, you are very fucking inward, aren't you? Like and it's natural because there's no roadmap for anybody. Like
No.
especially like from my point of view, stand up. Yeah, I did a bit of acting, but it was as a result of stand up. There's no fucking roadmap. And you created something that had never been seen before. So there was sure as shit was no roadmap for you. So how do you navigate
There was a
that?
general GPS where we wanted to go, and back in the day in 2007, there was very little that represented anything outside the pale in Ireland, and not only that, it kind of felt like there was everything was that was coming out of RTE was panel show. It's like, if in doubt, have a panel show.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking there's a lot of great stuff. I remember stuff out of RTE in the late 90s. Podge and Rog, and in fairness, it was actually a guy called Simon Keenan who was working with the guys from Podge and Rog that recommended Simon the Storyland competition in 2009, and I've got to thank Simon Keenan for that, because and the lads from Podge and Rog for recommending us for that. And that's kind of where we got the start off the corporate money, like the old taxpayer funded nice handy numbers. Oh, the recession came and dried it all up. The money went to BlackRock and Vanguard. Christina Lagarde of the IMF will take your blanket bogs. That kind of crack. Yeah, the world's fucked, but all you can do is laugh.
Do you know what though? At the same time, you got the leg in the door before. We were at it when you were
at
the
right time, Tom, as well.
It was a great.
Facebook
there was a wild time. I remember sitting in the back of, what do you call him?
Puff Daddy's limo.
Puff Daddy, back when he was puffed. But we were sitting, me and you, and jeez, who else was in it with us? There was some poor bastard was trying to peddle us. What do you call them? Do you know the peddly bikes? Rickshaws. Jesus, yeah. I'm a fucking Philistine. We came out of, was it? Fuck it. It's Bruxelles. Which was normally just flaking crack, as they'd say back in the day. And we came out, and it was at the uptick of the Bucks and Damon Ivor. And we didn't know what any of us were doing, and none of us knew what we were doing. But all I remember was being flaking drunk. And I think I was holding your hand. I'm not sure. But we're inside in the back of this yoke, and we jumped out of it because we got to where we were going. We were only going down to a pub down the road. And was it McGahern and a couple of more jumped into it? And the tire burst on the fucking thing, and it went over on its side. And all I remember
down the bottom of Grafton Street.
It was something. I think it was. It wasn't that far. It was down the bottom of Grafton, and all I remember was you going, "Sure, glad it wasn't us, lad." Do you know, you were just walked away from it like there was an explosion happening behind you, like fucking MacGyver, like just going, "Glad." Like I was holy Jesus in the moment, but you were like, "Glad it wasn't us." You're cool as a fucking breeze, but I don't talk about this as much on the podcast, but Jesus, the glory days
they were
of
mental
our career.
times.
Jesus, they were good.
You see, the thing is, before we even got to TV, like, we were a tight knit bunch of lads who loved training, and there was elements.
You were all strong looking, like you were fucking monstrous back in the day. What are you, 6'2"?
6'1".
Are you? Excuse me for the
On a
inch,
good
but
day.
it depends on heels. But
Exactly.
I fuck because that was what struck me first. It was like you caught a hold of me because you'd had a feed in you, and I was only getting
We were just
started.
a pack of
Yeah,
testosterone-driven
but it,
sound lads who were just, country lads who liked a good time, and we never, we never went looking for trouble, but we could handle ourselves. And as a group, we kind of always felt like we could, we always felt like when we were together in this was even long before, and we often did get into tips and scraps with people, but we were always like the UN, don't fire until shots have been fired kind of thing. And as you know yourself, like most lads in their 20s and sometimes into the 30s end up in a bit of a scrap now and again. And you have, I mean, the thing is, fair play to Tom Cagallan who plays the Boo. Like he was like our own personal boxing instructor. He was always coming up with mad, crazy training ideas, and he's like, this, I was watching this thing, Stephen Maxwell, kettlebell, cruel and unusual with Steve Maxwell. So he'd always be, yeah, the strength that lad had for a man of 5'8", fuck me. And yeah, so we were like, living in Galway, and I was between here and Ireland, and we were just rowdy. We were what we would call other people of the same stock, juicy characters.
yeah,
And like, yeah, we lived it to the full, and that was before we'd ever even got to TV. So when we got to TV, we were, oh, these lads are from the Hardy Books, bring them in. Okay, wow, okay, I love the show, brilliant stuff, great stuff, lads, welcome, lads. And then it was just like, it went from not tonight, lads, members only in the old days, and when we were like in our early 20s, late teens, trying to get into places, to, oh, how's it going, welcome. And then you're just like,
the velvet rope
it
opens.
happened
Yeah,
quickly
yeah,
on a small scale, Tom. It wasn't like, it didn't, like, I can imagine how mad things must be if you've become, well known globally, and you're just
yeah,
thrown into it. It must be the most maddest. Like, imagine, like, if you're, let's just use for example One Direction, like these lads that are like Niall Horan, who comes from Mullingar, and next thing you just got young women screaming at him non-stop, and people giving you free stuff in order to be seen with it, and it's just like, so we had that on a micro level, because Ireland, I suppose, it is a small microcosm, really, in the world of show business and whatnot. But even at that, it was, people start talking to you differently, and you know characters you've heard about are now befriending you.
yeah,
It's like the Johnny Come Lately song by the Eagles. You know,
yeah,
they'll love
yeah,
you
yeah.
till someone new comes along, and then you're kind of. I always look at the world of fame as it's like a cloud. You're absorbed, you're evaporated up into this cumulonimbus, let's say, this torrid thunder cloud, and then you're rained out of it, and for different reasons. There's thing like the world of acting. You'll see like, Nikki Swift, 10 actors who blew it, and then it's like, you kind of like, did they, or were they just fucking sick and tired of having to turn up for auditions and talk bollocks about themselves? And it's an industry of the acting part. It's a grind that you have to pay out your own pocket for flights, for auditions, and there's an awful lot to it, and you have to leave everything. And much like yourself, when you have kids, then it's like, fuck that. I was never that passionate. I was good at it, and I can do it, and I have a good aptitude for it. But it was never, a burning passion. I was actually thinking to myself lately. I was like, what is my burning passion? It's like, and I was thinking, I'm kind of like a general passion for a lot of things. Having the crack with people, that's what I'm passionate about, Tom. Do you know what I mean?
Isn't it funny though that's the actual basis of it? Because even I wasn't fully sure when I showed up and like I met G for the first time. I had no fucking idea, and I
You're
just
coming with us,
I was telling dick jokes, and I remember you catching a hold of me, and
Cheney.
you said something. It was along the lines of, "He's fucking stout, boys," and because I was like, I was, fucking built like a fucking train, only but a small
I was
train,
on the
like, but
creatine.
and I probably was at the time, but it's the I met my own in amongst it. Do you know that kind of way? Because I was in amongst it, and the amount of people that were talking absolute scour, and I couldn't absorb any of it because you know it's
Yeah,
amazing, Tom.
it's funny you
And
say that because sorry for cutting you off there for a second. I remember McGahan introducing us to a whole load of like lads from the comedy circuit and the scene in Dublin
oh Lord,
outside of the International. I was just like, fuck this, man. These lads are fucking weird. You know, they were like, yeah, we're stand up, you know, getting into gigs, man. A couple of gigs coming up, great gigs, great jokes. Fucking crowd would love them, man. Fucking cool. And then just like slightly, you know, Aspergic lads in the background. Then it was an awful lot of kind of like, ha, 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 ha. Yeah, these guys fucking, they're animals. They're like, they've got a cage mentality. Yeah, they're assholes. And I was like, no, I'm not hanging out with it. Fuck this. Like, we were never kind of, you know, I personally didn't really, I had no ambition to be part of the, this is a new festival. Come to this festival. It's going to be headlined by Beep, and Beep is going to be there too. And the usual fucking people. I was like, not interested. The Hardy books in the beginning, myself and Tordoff, it was anti-establishment. Anything that was
of course
kind
it
of like,
was. Yeah.
you know, we've met people like headline guys, and a lot of them are very sound when you get to know them. But we were kind of anti anything that was, yeah, status quo. We were always contrarians, and that's the way I'll always be. Like
Had you any idea that? And I'm saying this because I can visually see a neon sign in the office. This would actually it would make you puke. It's in the office of a very my actual God, guys, we're doing really well. I can't believe we're doing really well.
Leeson
And
Street.
better than that. And it's in their office, and it's a neon sign, and it's definitely something you had said. And it's like, well, boys, and it's written phonetically, like it's something along those lines. I can't remember it. I was in it, and I went, "Oh, for the love of fucking Jesus, you've missed the point altogether, you pack of cunts." But do you know what? You're actually perfect because you're a pack of cunts who missed the point, and your average person who's going to pay you money for what you're selling is a person who's going to miss the fucking point anyway. So you're actually perfect. And they would actually literally in their D4 accents be chatting across the Mac laptops to each other, going, "Throw me the story there, lad." And you're going, I want to fucking upend every fucking one of you. And I was in there to do a corporate gig. Not in there, but I was in there to talk about a corporate gig they wanted me to do. And I swear to God, all I could think was, I'm putting fucking zeros on the end of this because every one of you are poisonous fucking rotten bastards. And
Rotten bastards.
but they were just going, "Story, lad." And you're going, you're from fucking, like every one of you went to fucking either Gonzaga, Michaels, or fucking
Rambler.
Black Rock. Like and you're, I'm not that I was going, don't be fucking sullying the country, like, but at the same time, you fucking are, you fucking bastards, like, to a degree.
Do you know? I have to say, right, for me, I don't like. I really don't mind. Like, I know that there are those who will generalize people from different parts of the country. For me, I'm sure you're very similar yourself. I always uh, take people as I meet them, and you know, I've got friends from all different walks of the Irish kind of strata, from the country to, you know, leafy suburbs of Dublin 4 and Killiney. You know, but if someone is sound and they're good crack, then I don't mind what their you know, their socioeconomic status or political opinions are. You know, or um, if someone's sound, they're sound. But there are certain annoying elements, especially like this kind of the ease. It's now become trendy to be offended or on behalf of others that haven't even realized that they should be offended.
Yeah.
You know, you see that the problem is what the internet now has done is people can anonymously, mob handedly approach an individual or an institution in numbers in the dozens, right, with non-verifiable reviews, anonymous reviews, and create what seems to be, I mean, basically the reputation of an establishment or a restaurant or an individual or a service that's provided can be, because of a few negative posts or reviews, can damage people because people just they're when they go searching for information about a certain product or an individual, or they just will look at the first page they see on Google and they're like, oh, that's a bad review. That's bad. No, I can't. I won't. I'm not giving them my business now. And this is why TV shows get cancelled. This is why successful actors are removed from books, from agents' books and whatnot, because they see this little storm of a teacup that is created by a few, and then you have these opportunistic, I'm convinced that there are people out there who surf the net, they surf Twitter, Reddit, and all these different forums, looking for opportunistic outrage.
You're 100% right, because I know of
they're
two.
curtain switchers.
I know of two.
But when you think about it, these, if you could see these people in real life, you'd be like, oh yeah, fucking don't listen to that fucking idiot. They do that about it. But because it's the internet, you're like, oh, it's one of my peers who have written this review.
It's so real. Yeah. But what I was getting around to asking you was, and complimenting on the fact that you could flip between accents so easily, and not just a West of Ireland accent, which, by the way,
thanks very much, Tom. Appreciate that, mate.
Which we're gonna get a full fucking. We're gonna
having
get
a pony.
The full spectrum. Because
I must admit, my bummer was flapping a bit.
You are to blame for. You have made the pan-Irish southern accent a thing, because anybody who can do a decent accent from, whether it be Northern Ireland, north of Ireland. Sorry to all my Northern Ireland listeners. Or anybody from America or the UK who can do a decent Irish accent, they'll go, well, the pan one that I'm going with is Eddie Durkin. And but not even just go, I'll do his accent. They literally go to the deep parts as well. They'll go to, and we're like, that's.
I haven't really noticed that, but I have noticed a lot of hyper accents.
I get
like,
it.
Yeah, story with your dick lips and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, where are you from, man? Essex. I'm like, wow. That was flawless.
I get people doing impressions of me, and they go, I'm Tom, man. I'm like, what? No, what? What? A fucking decent effort, but no. And ironically, because I've lived in so many parts of Ireland, and it would seem what the Tipperary accent actually is put a TH, because Tipperary people don't pronounce the THs. They're like Jamaicans. They just go tings and this and that and those. But if you allow them to speak with THs, now they have a Mayo accent. That would seem what it is. But you, what part, like you were originally, clearly Martin Moloney, 6'1", beast of a man.
Red hair.
With red hair.
Sunburn.
Scald abroad in Scandinavia. Irish running through your toenails. But there's a hinting of an accent from somewhere else. Watch the story there briefly, because I know a million fuckers have picked your brain, but not every buckshot Irian. Are
you on about myself in terms of where I'm from? And what the accent is,
and how in the fuck you slipped beautifully into and can do any part of Ireland?
It's an interesting question there, Tom. Now, and if I was to answer that, and truthfully, I suppose my parents were born in the west of Ireland, and they moved because there was fuck all there for them at the time. They had to move to London, and
you stuck the T in, brilliant. London.
They went to London anyway, and then they worked in hard-working jobs.
They were pure McAlpine's kids.
Yeah, pure McAlpine jobs, yeah. And the Rose and Crown Cricketwood.
Say no more. Drinking dirt inside the pint.
Oh fuck! Give me a dirty glass. So they moved up to Liverpool because my uncle, my mother's brother, was living up there, and there was a couple of it wasn't quite Liverpool. It was Wallasey, which is across the Mersey. So the Scousers would call us woolly backs, because I don't know. It's like they're supposed to be the country in comparison to the hard centre of Liverpool, mate. You know what I mean?
Well, they say lads.
Lad, I like that, mate. Yeah,
and they scrape their fucking C's over the coals. It's like,
bach.
Right. Come on. It's too much effort. There's way too much effort in that accent. Come on now.
There is, but it's a fun accent. It's a fun accent, you know what I mean?
Oh, wait. It's ridiculously fun, but it's on a daily basis. Every moment of your waking hour, you're going to speak with that accent. Are you serious? Like, you're burning calories just speaking.
That's why they're very lean.
Lean fuckers.
The lean and wiry from working on the docks, mate. So my mum and dad they went up there to Wallasey, and then I was born there. One of four. I got three sisters, two older, one younger, and then in 1996, my mum and dad had split up when I was younger, and then my mum kind of thought, it's time to move back to the homestead, back to Swinford. So we went back to Ireland, and my 13th birthday was also the first day I started a new school in Mayo, and I was amazed at how backward it was in comparison to the school. Like the school I went to in the UK, I'd actually look forward to going to school. It was high tech, and there was a good buzz about it, you know, and there was great crack. And then there was a kind of a rural hardness of Swinford that we were like basically suburb kids in the Wirral who thought we were like tough Scousers, and then we just see like lads in fifth year who had like hairy chests, who were just jacked on natural testosterone from working on the farm, just fighting. And I was like, holy shit, man, this is like fucking Stranger Things or something. It's like
at 13, you're looking at these going, did I just move a realm? Did I move a realm?
Yeah, it was a complete realm change. And then, it was hard in a rural sense. I mean, the amount of fights and the shit that was happening, like it was a tough part of the world to grow up in. But again, I wouldn't trade it for the world, because it was another it was another learning experience, and to be quite honest with you, I'm very happy that we moved back to Mayo as well, because there's no bullshit down in Mayo. It's like
it is raw, like, because there is nothing to come. What I found with, especially, and why I've always said, we honeymooned in Mayo, like there's an affinity that I've always felt there, and Natasha finds it too. Like, she's like, Jesus, they're fucking raw, aren't they, around here?
But they're raw.
There's
in
a beautiful rawness, like.
Yeah, the thing about Mayo is they're very friendly, very you'd be looked after. But again, Mayo people in general, they won't put up with any shite either.
Oh no, they go like they'd be handy go into a row, which that's exactly why I grew up in quite a rough town. Like,
lads spoke with the hurl.
Voted the second, which is worse than anything. They voted the second worst town in Ireland, and there's only one thing worse.
What town is that?
Longford was voted the worst town in Ireland.
Oh yeah, Longford.
But
the Longford Slashers.
But Tiptown was voted the second worst town, which is worse than being voted. At least
you didn't even win the top spot.
No, it did. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? You get an accolade.
It's like getting a 2-star movie review. You know, it's like if you got a 1-star review, you're like, all right, it's a 1-star. It might be a
cult classic. Yeah.
Exactly. But a 2-star, it's just like,
nobody's touching that. No.
Yeah, but it's like you get the silver prize in Ireland's roughest town. Well, apparently, I remember reading the Irish Independent, or there was an article. Was it the Irish Times? There was like 20 outside of Dublin least desirable places to live, and in this article, Swinford was number 18 out of 20.
Was it?
Yeah, I think other notable towns were Edgeworthstown in Longford, yeah. Rathkeil was another one.
Oh, Rathkeil, yeah. Well, you ain't buying it in like Rathkeil because the travellers have it all bought.
Yeah, they fucking monopolized the place. You know, there was a couple of others as well. I can't remember. It'd be interesting to find. Maybe I can
I
look this up.
I went. I remember. It was a memorable moment on our honeymoon. It was just a great memorable week of enjoyable people. We met real characters the week we were in Mayo, and I'll never forget. You were filming whatever series of the books it was, and myself and Owen had made good old friends. And he went, "Jeez, I'd say we could slip you into an old part of it if you're around, like."
That's how we do. Everyone's
And
welcome.
And I loved the notion of it. He goes, Jesus, I mean, you'd fit in perfect. Look at you're fucking raw, culchy.
Hmm.
I no. I said, we're honeymooning that week. And he went, fuck. And I didn't realize to get to where we were going in Mayo, we had to drive through Swinford. And I could see the back of your head. You were filming on the street, right? I says, that's fucking Moloney below. And it was like something unbelievable, so would say. It was like that Moloney below, sure.
Martin Moloney.
Martin Moloney, young Moloney, sure. He's Mary Maloney's young fella. Sure. Jizz, he fucking
That's
wired.
right.
He's wired to the moon, the same lad. Jizz, he's some boy with a hurley in his hand. Now, in fairness, he'd work 2 fucks, but jizz, he'd pull hard all around him. That's what I was seeing, right? And in fairness, this is when I knew I'd married the right woman. We were on our fucking honeymoon, Martin. And she went, do you want to pull down? Do you want to pull in? Go down to the base.
That's the right woman.
And I says, jeez. And everything in my soul went, Jesus, do I what? Because I could see a heap of fucking good crack acting and then a feed of pinteens afterwards. And I says, for fuck's sake. But it clicked into I flipped back the other way. I went, did you just say that to me? No, we're on our fucking honeymoon. This'll do fine. Do you know?
And did you go to Westport or anything?
Oh, we did a course, but we went over and we stayed in, we stayed in the most fucking mental castle. Also, it was this castle hotel where the lunatic owned it.
Castle Court.
Oh, fuck it, wasn't. No, it was something castle. And this fucking madman owned it. His father was a bigger fucking madman. He had a British accent, the same chap. Like, he looked like, do you remember your man from Steptoe and Son? He looked like the son.
Oh, yeah, Tate, man.
Tate. He looked like him, right? And only more pervy. But, wow. But they had this incredible fucking hotel built.
That was his unique selling point.
Do you know what? He was a terrible person to meet, fucking front of house, but for your average person. But we like a character. And ourselves went, I'm going to tip up and just get changed there. I said, I'm getting a pint. I said, I'm fucking hell. This has been a whirlwind.
Or a
loosener. An old loosener. And I walked into the hotel bar and I went, what in the name of fuck am I looking at here? And it looked like the inside of a ship, but an old busted ship. It turns out his father had raised a galleon, a 16th century galleon. The Irish government didn't get their hands on it. He pulled it out of the fucking sea off the edge of Mayo, brought it in bits and pieces and rebuilt it inside the fucking pub.
Did he get any old treasure out of it, did he?
He got fuck all out of it, but he got a cool looking fucking bar. And your man who he had working there, I remember do you know when you meet a pro barman? Like a pro, like who's a barman for life. Rough old voice, smoked a million fags, talked a million stories. And I was the only fella in there.
He knows every type of person.
Yeah. On a Tuesday, I was the only fella in there. And I walked in, and I looked around, and without even fucking saying hello or anything, he went, you look like a man who murdered an old pint of the old Guinness, would you? I said, Jesus Christ, I would. And the way he said it was half the sell, like it was like drinking half the pint.
Yeah.
Jesus, tonight divine, you're delightful. So Mayo holds a special place in my fucking heart, regardless of
keep the creamers coming in thick and fast.
It's the fucking. And the entire week, of course it was because you're on your honeymoon. But we met magical people like an old woman with a beard, in Fox.
Oh yeah.
It was just it was a beautifully strange place, and I've always felt an affinity to it. But it would seem since I learned how to pronounce my th, people go, "Oh, you must be from Mayo, are you?" And I suppose I frequented a lot going up to visit fucking Gordo.
Gordo's a sound skin. It's fair play to him. He got me started with the podcast. I mean, if I probably would have been floundering, going, I'd like to, but I haven't. I mean, I need to get back into it like that. So what I did is I started writing the Hardy book and put it onto the Hardy Books podcast, and like even we've been talking about having me on this
Yeah,
podcast for like a month and a half now, but
yeah.
obviously I'm doing there's a lot of moving around going on at the moment, and I was in Ireland and whatnot. But you know yourself, it's just the chasing people and trying to get people to come on. It's again when you have kids and that kind of thing, it's just like, oh, fuck this, and then you've got to cut it together, edit it in post production. Um, yeah, so like I think whatever it's like 8 parts of the Hardy book, and there are people saying to me, "Please, when's the next one coming out? I need the laughs. I'm working abroad, and it's if I can plug the Hardy Books podcast there,
There will be a
the
link in the show notes, by the way.
oh good man,
It
fair
was
play
always
to
going
you.
to happen anyway. But I mean,
Yeah,
this is a perfect way to tie it in. Look down below as you're scrolling through your phone right now, and
exactly.
look.
Take a look right now. It's in the link. It's in the
You
bio.
you will not, as a fan of Martin Moloney, you won't be fucking sorry. Jesus Christ, you won't be
No,
sorry. I've
there's a
listened
lot
to the
of
entirety of it, and the joy.
yeah. Yeah, see, for me, it's a funny one. When I get into the flow, there's
Yeah,
no stopping me. But if I get interrupted, it's the sitting down. I'm always there's always multiple irons in the fire, but sometimes the old fire does go out.
do you know it's not? I don't think it goes out. I've described this with other people I've met. You are, and this is coming from hunting terms. You're a fucking unbelievable dog, right? And if you could only fucking sire a few pups off you, you'd be fucking unbelievable, right? You're an unbelievable dog. But sometimes unbelievable dogs are whores for fucking taking their eye off the fucking what they're hunting. And when you can't get that fucking dog back on track, you have to find a way of keeping his eye away from
Mm.
all the things that would keep him fucking distracted.
The phone is the worst thing, man. Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like,
and then it's like, sure, it's time to go to bed now. And then you be in bed just like looking at shite people arguing on Twitter, and then you're like, yeah, I could have put an hour in there.
the only thing that works for me, because I'm a maniac like you, where my brain runs in 2,000 different directions. Quite literally, I have the fucking Ashling copybook,
Oh, the old school with the
and
tower on it.
and at about I have my last old fucking drag of an old fucking electric fagine in the evening, and I go, you're a lazy cunt if you don't write tomorrow's to do. You're a lazy cunt. You're a
Yeah,
and
that does help. A to-do list for the next day.
That's the only thing, and not that you need to write a to-do list. I know that, but I need to insult myself by going, somebody would call you a lazy cunt if you didn't do this. I have to pick an outside voice to talk to me and go, you're a lazy cunt if you
And the
don't do
sound
this.
of an uncle you used to work with as a
Yeah,
kid.
who they
Useless bastard, you.
who thought I was a useless bastard. And that's the only
Funny
thing.
enough, I was listening to an audiobook the other day. I was procrastinating so much I had to listen to an audiobook about how not to procrastinate as much. It was called, what was it? It wasn't The Power of Now, that's Eckhart Tolle. The Habit of Now. And then I got about 3/4 of the way through part one. I was like, sound, I'm inspired now. And then other things came along. I was like, yeah, I did plenty there, so I did. Yeah, the funny thing is, I think ultimately, I have a very, in many ways, a middle class mindset, but I'm working class. So I'm just like, why don't I have some sort of sports car outside? What's going on here? And I was like, oh yeah, I didn't.
There's an awful.
Didn't go to school.
I went through an awful period of that too, where I was like, at some point this is going to get easier, and Daddy is going to step in and sort this. But no.
Do you know what? I'll tell you one thing. Stockholm is one of those places. I think it actually has the most millionaires per capita.
I read that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think outside of Montana.
Yeah, like I was taking a walk out in a place called Naka, which is a very well-to-do area, and it's just generational wealth. And I was walking along the beachfront. You look at these like cruiser speedboats, like I don't know what they call it, like cruisers, like Tony Soprano's kind of not catamarans. They're like a yacht, I suppose. Yeah,
yeah,
yachts and luxury speedboats, and I was walking along this trail that was it was a public walkway, but it kind of cut across these because I was thinking the property down by the water, I was like, surely that must be a separate house to this one behind me. And then you see the gate joining up, going across the path, and you're like, it's like the kind of wedge. I met a lad today who was telling me that he was out that way, and he met some guy who was in his like early 30s, owned this huge palatial house. And then he was talking to a neighbor of his, and she goes, "Oh, I used to live across in the house across from that back in the day." And that was obviously his grandparents' house, inherited him. And there's no property or inheritance tax like there is in the UK and Ireland here.
Right,
They
yeah,
got
yeah,
rid of
yeah.
that 20 years ago, you see, Swedes. But I suppose if I owned, if I was bequeathed a large house like that, I'd also be like, fuck that property tax. I mean, look, most of our money has just been siphoned off by financial institutions and fucking hedge fund bankers and the likes of, as I said before, BlackRock and Vanguard. They're just fucking bleeding us dry. And you can see.
I've never seen the like of uh the way things have been. There was money to be bequeathed to my father a couple of months ago, and from his own father, and it was, well, we now have to, well, it's all been agreed, but we now have to see what Johnny government needs from it. I'm like, and now they tried during the pandemic, they tried to sneak in one, never hit the news or anything.
Oh, of
They
course it
tried
wouldn't.
to they
So the
tried to
news
sneak
wouldn't be telling you that, like.
no, they tried to sneak in this one where if your parents lent you, not gave you, but lent you anything over 10 grand, it was taxable by the government. If ever there was a rock to be perished on, if I was to get €10,001 for a fucking day off my parents, I would take it to the fucking grave if for those fuckers try and take what, like, the
Money that your parents sweat to give you.
to give you a lend off, Vivian. Like just a lend,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
you're to give it back. And they went, yeah, we're gonna just stick our head in here and just, for a moment, just,
Oh man,
just reach inside your tip.
Isn't it such a shame to see a fact like the love I have in my heart for Ireland, even when we were, when we were kids and we were living in England, like where we lived in Merseyside was home, but it felt like our home, like where our heart belonged was Ireland,
Yeah, of course.
and it's a country that's constantly beleaguered by mediocrity and corruption, and it's also like the hand wringing and the eye rolling of, sure, what can you do about it? And it's just like, well, fucking, hold these wankers to account, because
Well, we're
look, I'm not going to
still,
get into that because it's just
but
I've been
to
round.
tie
You
it,
can check out my fucking YouTube channel. I talk about this ad nauseum.
I mean, and to tie in a bow on it between the two of us, look there's people from only fucking a couple of years away from being ruled by the British government who are still alive. Like my 100-year-old grandfather only died last year. Now, the same man was quite a rebellious character, but at the same time, he didn't really, and he didn't believe fully in taxation. not entirely at all.
if taxation is going to the right places and it's traceable, but if your taxes ending up in
putting windows in a fucking TD's fucking rental house,
or like just being wasted on, let's say the amount of, let's say if you're living in the States, how much of your money goes to the military contractors, Raytheon, Boeing, Lockheed, and even big pharma as well, like, and the amount of taxpayers' money that is going to this kind of stuff, or like this burgeoning, like now in America, you got the IRS, they're now training 80,000 IRS officers that can come and use lethal force at your residence. It's and this is the thing. I know you're talking about Gordo was big into the American stuff, and he's not so much into it these days. But when America sneezes, Europe catches a cold, as they say. And
it is.
We'd had a discussion off camera earlier on when we were discussing about like the amount of people that use Americanisms in Ireland.
Yep.
And they take the American, like all that shit. It all started in the Ivy League universities years ago with like, don't be clapping at our events. You have to click your fingers or use jazz hands because it might remind people who are victims of domestic abuse when you clap. I mean, they'll be like, oh, 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 oh.
Yeah.
It's a deliberate. I think it's a deliberate coddling of society, and I reckon there are boys out there from powerful nations that are sending in their operatives to soften up America, make them all soft, same as Europe.
Hence why we moved to rural South Tipperary, because I know
There's no soft lads there, and I'll tell you
if
this.
you need to raise a man, that's where you fucking move to.
And well, here's the thing, Tom. Speaking of Tipperary in our conversation about Ireland, what is it? Least desirable. I found a thing called Money Inc. 20 worst places to live in Ireland. Real estate by Liz Flynn, and this was of 2021. So I'll just go through them. Castle Island, isn't that in Kerry? Is it?
Beautiful spot.
Yeah, it says here Castle Island's main claim to fame is the width of its main street, which is so substantial that local journalist Con Houlihan is promoted to describe Castle Island as not so much as a town as a street between two fields.
What a bollocks. It's a great... I would advise anybody, if they want to just next year's August bank holiday weekend, and you have a tent or just a fucking meandering fucking head, go to Castle Island for the August bank holiday weekend. You won't be disappointed.
That sounds like good crack.
Powerful.
The next one, Castle Blaney in Monaghan. I know boys from Blaney. Fucking Blaney boys, hey, they're fucking sound, hey. The Blaney boys. Then you got Lifford, Donegal. Small town, less than 2,000. County Donegal is not, I mean, Edgeworthstown hasn't made it. Crossroads. I went down to the crossroads. I fell on my knees. I don't know where that is. It doesn't even tell you where some of these are. Crossroads. Abbeyfeale, County Limerick, is not a terrible place to live by any means. The problem is it's not a great place either.
Good pint of Guinness. Good pint of Guinness in Abbeyfeale. I'll tell you that now.
There is there?
Yeah.
There really is very little to do here, apart from wandering around the shops, which should take all of 10 minutes, and enjoying Guinness. Well, there you go. Enjoying the Guinness at one of the local pubs, the opportunities of recreation are almost non-existent. Recreation, to recreate.
Isn't that funny? Like, that's exactly what it is,
said
to
it,
recreate.
And it came
so
here.
She brought herself down from leafy fucking Stillorgan down to these places and went, I need to see what's actually happening around here. You mean it's not like Wicklow? Yeah, Wicklow was created. Wicklow and Meath were created to keep Dublin people entertained. Everything else outside that is where people live. Yeah, fucking bollocks.
Speaking of Wicklow, there was a time when me and Owen Colgan, we really made a big fuss about being at the Bray Comedy Festival.
Oh, Lord.
Of course, we listened to fucking our promoter at the time. I won't mention Julian. Sorry. He said, "Lads, don't be doing your Hardy Book stuff, man. You need that for Vicar Street." Even though we were doing a completely different. There's a lot of factors, man. It was probably the worst gig I've ever done, and afterwards I felt like such a bollocks. Because we didn't do we had about 30 minutes of good material that we've been doing for our live show. Should have done that. Should have listened to him, but.
Yeah,
I literally was just going off the seat of my pants in this, posh hotel in Wicklow, and I was like, "We've misjudged this, and we'll never be invited back again." Much love to you. Letterkenny, 15.
Letterkenny's a fucking noble town. I'll have nothing said against it. One of the wealthiest towns I've ever been in. Somebody dumped millions into the infrastructure of the main street in Letterkenny. Got pulled by the guards there after doing a gig one night. They had powerful crack with me. They were like, and I TS plates on the car, and your man was like, "You've come a long." I said something like, "You're a long way from home." After pulling me in, I went, "Fuck, am I? How far do you reckon I'm from home?" And in fairness to your one, the band guard that was with him, she was like, "Okay, we're gonna walk away from this situation." I said, "No, come back and tell me how far you think I am from home." And your man had realized, "Oh, I've just said something fucking ridiculous." And I said, "Come here, because you've been there. You've been to Tip, have you? Because you definitely trained there at one point." Letterkenny's a fine town. By the way, the ancestral home of George Carlin. So
really,
yeah. So get a fucking grip, Teresa, or whoever wrote this.
Yeah.
Go on,
Liz Flynn. Enniscorthy, violent crime is mercifully rare in Ireland. Mercifully rare. But it's not unheard of, especially if you happen to live in Enniscorthy. Along with the occasional stabbing or assault, the town is also a centre of drug problems, corresponding increase in number of property crimes. On the plus side, there is a railway station that will be happy to whisk you away to somewhere better. Well, apparently my great grandmother came from Enniscorthy. So
it's a hard man's town. is
It is,
Enniscorthy.
yeah.
It
It
is.
looks so picturesque along the river and all. Like,
It's fucking tough. It's
there's a lot of tough
tough.
folk from Wexford. There's like I heard of Wexford town's full of hard lads.
Enniscorthy would be if you took all the hard lads from Wexford town and found a town for them. It would be Enniscorthy.
God, well, listen to this one then, Tom. New Ross.
Only up the road. Yeah.
Is that where's that?
Wexford as well. Wexford,
Oh, it's
Waterford
Wexford.
border.
Oh,
Yeah.
right. Yeah, okay. It says here, New Ross is a slightly bleak, slightly depressing city of 8,040 people with an industrial vibe and not a whole lot going on. A little bit grey, a little bit grim, and not much the kind of place you want to spend much time in. On the plus side, the Brody famine ship experience is said to offer an incredible insight to the hows and whys of the potato famine. New Ross, so that's 13. 12, Waterford. I won't go into that, but it says, all right, fair enough, it says here, but a very 21st century problem, namely an escalating drug problem that's given rise to one of the worst crime rates in the country. It's still beautiful, but all that glitters is, but not all that glitters is gold. Cork? Anyone who's ever visited Cork will tell you it's a beautiful place, quaint, charming, and blessed with stunning scenery. It offers a quintessential Irish experience with armies of tourists that descended. Okay, what's the problem here? Crime rate, no laughing matter. Go to reports one of the biggest problems with 2,824 incidents recorded since 20. That's not too bad, really, when you think of it as 2,824 incidents recorded since 2003. So
Yeah. It's the
18
second
years.
biggest city in the country. Like,
Well, Galway got number 10. Least desirable.
Wow.
Okay. Best place.
Galway got to 10, and New Ross is at okay. Right. Okay. Yeah.
I mean, I've heard Headford getting a bit of stick. So Galway, then Dublin. No means the worst place, hence its inclusion at number 9 on the list. Stunning parts, obviously, substantial poverty and the worst crime rate in the country. This isn't necessarily unexpected. It is a capital after all, but it's not easy to ignore. Larne, voted the worst town in Ireland by collegetimes.com. What to say? But other than that, the only thing you'll come to love about the town is the road out of the. Wow, fucking hell.
Larne, yeah.
That's new.
Ratnew in
Where is that?
County Wicklow. Would it be South County Wicklow or the Ratnew? Ratnew is all right, because I tell you why. Ratnew has a lot of hard fucking men. A lot of hard men.
Do you know what's in? You know what's ranked now, Tom? Do you?
Well,
number 6 coming in. I'll give you this. I won't. It says backdrop by rich, fertile hills, home to the legendary Tipperary Racecourse, and made famous by the war song. It's a long way. War song. It's a long way to Tipperary. Seems a great place to live for some people. It might be, but for those who value job opportunities, there aren't any. Decent amenities. If you're after something more than a pub or a betting shop, you're out of luck. Sounds like a real hardmen time. The crime isn't terrible, but woe betide the motorist that leaves their car unlocked for more than a few minutes. And a way out of there, there's a bus
I love
station.
how she must have tested that. Like,
yeah. Well, I locked my car and they took my Moro that was off the passenger seat.
They stole my soul. I left. Like, there's not the thing about it, there's not much crime, but there's nothing going on in Tip Town. I went to school there, but to be the town I frequent the most would be Cahir, which is a ridiculously affluent town as a result of a lot of employment and a giant fucking castle that's in the middle of it. That really, Hollywood swings around every so often when they need a fully built castle and goes, "Can we have the town for today?" You're like, "Yeah, that'll be a gazillion." Oh, Matt Damon, that'd be 2 times gazillion. Yeah, go on.
Hit me up with the gazillions, glad. So Limerick is 5. Clonmel, another town. Clonmel Champagne. Quite fond of the Clonmel Champagne. Yeah. The old boomers. It says here, Clonmel is a pretty little town with a serious problem. Over the past few years, drugs have ripped the community apart. January alone, 256,000 euro worth of cocaine, heroin, and amphetamines, MDMA, alprazolam, cannabis, and diazepam were seized from dealers in the town. As the drug problem has escalated, so has other criminal activity. All in all, it's best avoided. Wow, Clonmel. And there was the Rock of Cashel and all. Bunclody. Don't know what that is. Do you know what that is?
Wexford again. I lived there. I lived in Bunclody for 8 months. I did. And you know what? It's a tough little town, but I enjoyed everything it had to offer.
Oh, fair play. As my mother would say, 'tis an ill wind that doesn't favour somebody.
Yeah.
Carrick on Sure.
Tipperary, it's rough as fuck. In fairness, I will say, caricature. When we were playing rugby as young lads, you'd have to get changed on the bus, not because of the row, because you knew you were all going to get in a row anyways, because they'd fucking rob everything you had. Simple as that. Yeah.
Have a guess what number 1 is now at the top, Tom.
Is it Longford Town?
It is Longford Town.
I'll tell you a story. We were working in Longford Town. Back when I was building golf courses, and that's how I know Longford and Monaghan Town and a couple of other places. We were building a golf course. We were rained off. We knew we'd be rained off for 3 or 4 days.
How were you building golf courses? Like, what was the crack? You were
developing
drainage of land, and then
drainage of land, actually shaping it, sculpting it into the shape it needed to be. But I was in there as civils, because when I joined the company, they were moving earth. Martin, they'd move literally €1 million it would cost them to move earth into one part, and they go, fuck, we got that kind of wrong. And I was going, for the love of Jesus, the boys, just put it here for the minute, and when we need it, we'll come back to it. It was literally like moving out like sand around a sand pit, and the boys were doing it on a colossal scale, but the money was bananas. But we were working in Longford. It was the death knell on that particular job. The hammer fell, and we all stopped skiing, is what I'm trying to say. We all stopped skiing in the middle of that job. But this one particular day, couple of days, we were rained off, and we were sent. We were just told, you'd be paid anyway, but you were rained off by. So,
hitting the town for a few scoops.
Town, because we're all in rental accommodation. And I had my own place because I was kind of the boss man or whatever. So
Ganger man.
So we go into town for a few pints, and we drank a few pints, and we went and watched. I'll never forget. We went down to town to watch Borat in Longford. Sure, it was only the 5 or 6 of us.
It was 2006, was it?
Yeah, calved laughing at Borat. Went up to town, and we said we'd better get back on it again, because we're all after sobering up on the coke and fucking popcorn. And we went into a pub called Valentine's, noble pub, and we're sitting there, the 5 of us, and this very tall, very fucking afro-bushed fucking man stood beside me and went, I'll have whatever he's having, and by the way, I'm getting you the next round, boys. And I looked up and I went, holy mother of fucking Jesus, are you Will Ferrell? And he went, I am. I'm Tom O'Mahony, good to meet you. I went, good to meet you, Tom. Is that Guinness or what? I said, it is Guinness. Yeah, it's Guinness, Will Ferrell.
Yeah, a friend of mine, Dan Riley, said his brother was drinking with him in Longford once.
Yeah.
I think it was the Euro bar or something.
Within about 3 minutes, there was no social media to talk about, worth talking about. Maybe it was Facebook. And everyone at the boys, we all got a picture with him. And it went out about the town. So the town was dead, but within 14 minutes, Valentine's was out the fucking door.
Funny, isn't it, how one man can attract so many people?
And with the manners,
like Callum Best, the time me and Shortoff were doing a gig down in Ennis in 2010, there was just a steady queue of women coming to see Callum Best, and I was like, look at that, bye.
What was Shortoff doing with Callum Best?
Oh no, we were asked to do an opening for this club down in Ennis. It was great crack.
Oh, sorry, yourself and Tordoff and Callum Best.
And he was with us. So this was before we even got to TV. And funny enough, we were going to Ibiza to film the next day, and Chris had accidentally left the fucking hard drives of all the rushes in one of the back in the hotel. We're like halfway back up to Mayo. I was like, oh man, I've left the fucking hard drives behind. I don't know why the hard drives were with us at the time, but thankfully we got them back, because that would have been a complete disaster. But yeah, sorry, with the Will Ferrell. He's not the only. Apparently, Mel Gibson is named after St. Mel's in Longford. His mother is also. I don't know what I know the dad's Australian, but he's probably got some Irish blood in him. But the mother is from Longford.
I have to say, going to school in Tiptown and living briefly in Longford, I don't know how Longford is even in the running. There's so much employment there. There was when we would break down on the site or like that, there was an industrial estate to go and get something. Do you know what I mean? Like there was.
Yeah, you were never stuck.
No, there was an engineering fucking firm to go and get stuff. Like,
I mean, it's a big town. Like, I mean, anytime
it's got a
that was always a halfway point when we were going through it. We were like, you'd be happy to see Longford, no matter which direction you'd be going, because when you get to Longford, you're like, oh, thank God, we're halfway home.
Yeah, yeah,
And then if you're
exactly.
going to Dublin for a good time, you're like, yeah, we're at Longford now.
You grab the chips in Longford, but it was
Supermax job,
out
milkshake.
fucking tip, God bless it, and they never capitalized because Cashel and Caird, which are close proximities, yes, they have amazing castles, but they're two gorgeous medieval towns who've done really well. But Tip never capitalized on the fact that they have one of the best names, the most well-known names, albeit named after some would say it was named after a whorehouse in London in this First World War. But they've one of the best known names worldwide, and they never capitalized on it. They're just like, so it's Tip Town, like, what do you what? We're into horses. You're like, fuck your horses, boys. For the love, fucking would you help yourselves some bit, like? But they
What was
don't.
the name? What was the thing that they were capitalizing on?
I mean, the fact is, like, fucking a long way from Tipperary. Never,
Oh, right, yeah.
never. Don't even try. Don't even try and capitalize it.
So
You're
that
like,
song was actually about Tip Town then.
well, I think it was named after a bar. Like some would
Uh,
say a whorehouse, but a bar that was in London that was so well known to squaddies and soldiers that was near Piccadilly in London. But it was obviously named after Tipperary town. And it was it's a long way to Tipperary. They weren't actually talking about Tipperary town, they were talking about the bar.
Because I always wondered where that song came from, but no, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I was also at Clonmel as well. I did like sometimes like I was when you're writing when I was writing a bit of the Hardy book, I was getting bogged down into the minutiae of the story about Clonmel. It was about how Buzz McDonald's an ancestor of his was called Zachary McDonald, and he brought the first Irish theme bar to the pilgrims in Plymouth Rock, and how he was trying to evade the capture of Cromwell, and I've learned a lot about the siege of Clonmel. And
phenomenal story. Phenomenal story, like.
Owen Roe, was it?
Yeah. Did you get to the point where they started melting down their silver?
I didn't get that far, but that was the first time I'd ever heard of chain shots, which were cannonballs chained together. That was used mostly in nautical siege warfare for like destroying sails and masts. But how they got them into a killing field, as it was known, just kept funneling the Cromwell's new model army into this the kill corridor. They were just firing cannons at them at knee level, so blowing the legs off lads, and sounded fucking vicious. Like, but hey, that was the crack back then.
Clonmel was the only place that turned him back.
They nearly bet him.
Yeah,
like it was nearly taken down.
He'd serious respect. Apparently, he'd serious respect for him because at one point he picked up one of his own dead soldiers who had a silver bullet wound to the fucking head.
Oh, they melted the silver down.
They'd burnt all through all their lead, and it started melting down forks and fucking knives at that stage. And he went, well, fuck me. They're down to the silver. This fucking crowd. He'd serious respect from at that stage. So he didn't raise it to the ground like he did with Drogheda and a lot of places.
Yeah, Drogheda got absolutely
No, he didn't. He'd massive respect by the time he was going. He was,
sorry, one sec, Tom.
yeah.
Just got to get the old snooze out of the fridge. This is what I'm on, the Swedish tobacco job.
Do you find it good? Yeah.
You won't if. Well, I used to be on the vape the whole time, and then I was on these, and I went on the vape, and then went back to these, and I given up smoking for years, and then I just started snoozing when I was out. I've been doing these for about 8 years now, but they have the Nordic Spirit there over in Ireland, which you can try. They're not as nice as these, but you can get these off. I think it's northman.se if you want to try them out. But they're very Moorish. They're very Moorish, and you can do them anywhere.
Because a couple of guys, I see them just sneaking in the old snooze or the
footballers,
the old Copenhagen, like into the old fucking lip, like. I mean, because it's still even this, like the chewing tobacco, would be known as Copenhagen in like Southern America. They go.
Yeah, I
Fucking.
tried that tune, Oliver Twist or something. The tune in the back, I was fucking useless stuff. I was like, I needed to spit the whole time. I was like, this isn't practical at all.
It's in no way practical. A cousin of mine, they were over a couple of years ago, and they're from Florida, up near the Alabama border. And her husband, they'd rented this car, whatever. We're chatting away. He says, "Hey man, could you just drive this fucking thing back?" Because their daughter was in the World Championships, dancing championships out in City West. He says, "Can you?" And this is a well-educated doctor of a man. But even though he's speaking with his slow drawn things, it can sometimes lead you into thinking that he may not be the smartest person, but a very sharp chap. Like, but he's chatting away and he's like, hold on, gotta get a spitter. I was like, a fucking, and I'm driving this minivan, this fucking Ford fucking Transit of a bit thing back into Dublin. I went, a fucking what? And he literally took out a penknife and cut a fucking bottle of Coke in half, an empty bottle of Coke in half. He's going, no, I'm just need a spitter. And he's yakking into this fucking thing. And I looked at my cousin and went, hey, is this a fucking normal carry-on for a man to be just fucking heaving black shite into a fucking half a bottle? And she went, oh, yeah. Yeah. He all did this just wandering around the fucking town, just flaming away into fucking bottles. He went, yep, spitter. And
Spoon.
Like,
these things are handy because they're like tea bags.
That's what I see now. You're a neat version inside the bottom of your gum
nice
there.
and neat, and then you flick it off. Then
is there any dribblings or anything out of it, like, or would be? Is there any dribbles or anything off the back of it, like, or what is? Really. Is there any drawback from it, like?
Sometimes I eat with it and then I forget. Like I'm sure I've probably swallowed them at some stage. Just being eaten, and then like. Sometimes I'm like, oh, I need a snooze, and I realize I've got one in already. I'm like, God, I've got a problem with this. But as my dad would say, it keeps the head on a man.
That's a great phrase. I love it. Keeps the head on a man.
It's only you realize that keeping the head on you is because you have a withdrawal from the nicotine.
Yeah.
So it's
completely.
I feel better now after that. That's good.
Gets me back in the game. Yeah.
Back in the game. It's like having being addicted to, I don't know, licking stamps. I just need to lick stamps, man. You get addicted to anything long enough. Like that woman who eats talcum powder.
Whether they realize it or not, everybody has an addiction, whether it's a subtle one or not, whether it's just
exactly.
I love washing my hands.
The old lady and the chocolate.
Here now.
She go to mass, but she's wake her own chocolate. Especially the old dairy milks, you know what I mean?
So I'm not gonna, I don't want to annoy you, but I am gonna I'm gonna press you. When are we getting? And this, I want you to write this on the to-do list now and guilt yourself into this. When are we getting
to-do list?
Your next installment, and this is for the people who have been bugging the fuck out of you. When
what's this? Is this
your next
TV or
no fuck TV or
podcast?
Your podcast. Like, who knows what's happening with TV, God. Martin? Myself and yourself might end up doing a cooking show, for the love of fuck.
You know what? Why not? Like, I mean, there were two personalities that could. Like,
I love barbecuing and cooking outside. Like, I have a brisket that I will be up tomorrow morning at 5 a.m. I've gotten an Angus brisket that I'm pulling out of a cooler in a factory. They are very kind people. They allowed me to pick out the animal, the whole lot. I put it in a dry age for 4 days, then in the cooler for 3 weeks, and it's going on the smoker. It's going on the
live, man. You know how to live.
Listen, I keep it very simple. I don't buy Air Jordans. I don't do anything fancy. I'm driving
what would you need them for, like?
I'm driving a 10-year-old car that does unreal fucking mileage. The woman don't give a fuck about any of that stuff. She just wants to feed that brute of a young fella of ours. That's all she wants. Feed that boy. And just keep feeding him.
They keep it. Look, the thing. I actually, Owen Colligan yesterday sent me a link to, it was like great film, and then just like a YouTube link. I didn't know what it was, and it was They Live. I hadn't seen it since probably about 2008 or 9. But when you watch it now, you're like, yeah, John Carpenter knew the crack.
Hold on now, tell me that movie again. Which movie was that?
The one, I'm here to kick ass and chew bubble gum. And I'm fresh out of gum. And he starts blasting these aliens. Where he puts these glasses on.
It was fucking Rowdy Roddy Piper, wasn't it?
Exactly.
I literally only talked about that the other night on the podcast. So it was like, everybody needs to watch that movie once. Like,
I actually I have to wrap this up. Sorry,
Yeah, no,
we'll
no,
take
no.
they live another time, Tom, because this lad has been waiting since 10, I think, your time.
Oh, mother of Jesus,
But
right?
the crack was so fucking good. But I'll come on again. But I'll have to get this lad. I have to say, Tom, sorry to wrap it up. I think the daughter has took herself off to bed. That's how bad it was. Um, but no, I enjoyed that. Now it was a very busy day, and it was a lot of wandering around different parts of the city in, as they say here in Sweden, steak heat. It was steak heatingly hot. Like you could fry a steak off the tarmac. So
But much like your day of meandering through different parts of the fucking the annals of time and the areas that you ended up in. Our conversation has bounced around the fucking town, up and down the fucking street, in and out of people's houses, and
exactly,
back and forth the
I've
ocean.
very much enjoyed it, mate.
It was a
And
beautiful meander, and sure, look, we will do it again, but sure, and we're most
I
definitely
tell
going to
you, I
stay
was
in
glad I
touch.
had the little kip there before coming on. You know, I had an hour's kip, and I woke up and I was like, like a bear with a bad head, going, "Oh, I have to do a podcast now." But I have to say, I've enjoyed myself tremendously, and the chat has been solid.
Well,
There was near a dull moment, man. There was near a dull
w-
moment.
just for the listeners going forward, we most definitely, I'm just nailing it to our colours to the mass. We're definitely having a cooking program coming up soon
Well, man,
between.
I'm a chef as
You're
well.
actually a chef, and
Mm.
I love cooking meat. I love meat, so I
Just
think
get
it's
like I'm up for it. If you can get someone with the spawns and we maybe go around Ireland or wherever, I'm up for doing something.
I
Get those
literally.
I tell you, the boys to talk to know, right? The money men. I have to say about the two Johnnies, fair play to them. I know you're good mates with them. I haven't had the pleasure of meeting them yet,
Two
but
good men.
when I saw they came out with the music videos, I was like, that was the kind of thing I wanted to do with the other lads years ago. Well, the lads couldn't play. Tordoff could play, but we just didn't have it. Like I wanted to have live, music to go with the Hardy Books as well, and the fact that they got great music videos together, and they're great musicians as well. So fair play to them. Hats off.
Martin Moloney,
The
go
one and
forward.
only.
Go forward. Smash down them walls, and I'll talk to you the next time.
I'll tell you something you must watch. It's a very funny clip before I go. Speaking of smashing down the walls, Bobby Gillespie and Manny of Stone Roses and Primal Scream, they're at Glastonbury and they're smashed, and it's in the afternoon time and they're absolutely pickled.
Beautiful.
And at the end, there's a lot of very funny. I think it's Edith Bowman and Colin Murray have to apologize at the end of it. And you'll just please watch it. It's absolutely brilliant. I won't spoil it, but there's a bit where Manny from Stone Roses go smashing down the walls of Babylon.
And no doubt a faux setup at the back of a fucking festival. Like, yeah, lovely.
So, Primal Scream Glastonbury interview, Edith Bowman. Promise you won't be disappointed. It's like Macbeth with Dave Lee Travis. On that bombshell, Tom, I will say adieu, and to your audience as well. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, keep
thanks
in touch,
for having
mate.
each other.
Yeah, exactly.
Till I chat to you again, Martin.
Good luck and good bless.
Thank you very much, Martin. Like I said at the top of the show, gigs coming up the 10th of September. I'm going to be in Tipperary with Clattert. The 1st of October, I'm going to be in Newbridge with Clattert. And the weekend of the 28th of October, I'm going to be in Galway with Clattert. If you want to become a Patreon, keep up to date with all that stuff, you support the show, as well as getting early access to all the episodes. And by that, I mean, we're talking a week with no ads. And you get the video, and you get the Ramble Pods, which are Patreon exclusive, as well as fucking live shows every couple of weeks. I can do no more for you, lads. Follow Eddie's show. It's absolutely brilliant. Have a look down in the show notes. You'll see my link for everything I was talking about, tickets and becoming a Patreon. And you'll see his show's link there as well. Hit subscribe if it's your first time listening. Give it the 5 stars. Take a screenshot if you would. Tag it on whatever platform you're on. It'd be great to hear more people joining the gang. Other than that, go on away, enjoy the rest of the weekend, and I'll talk to you again next week. Good night, good bless, and thanks.